welcome to Life with Sonya. Today we have a very special guest, and she's very talented, she's very pretty, and she has been interviewing the famous people. So I'm very lucky to have her on Live with Sonya today. And welcome, Lynda Sunshine West. You look very bright like the sunshine also.
Thank you so much for
Thank
having me,
you.
Sonia. I'm glad to be
Thank
here.
you for coming to Live with Sonya. So, how are you today?
Doing amazingly well. It's a beautiful day here. I'm in San Diego, California, and
Mm-hmm.
it is actually a beautiful day, living up to our name of sunshine.
Yeah, it is summer for the time being, right?
Yes, yes. Our summer well, it's not even officially really like summer yet, but
Mhm.
it is that time of year that we're moving into the warmer weather. Yes.
So, Linda, what have you been to? Because you seem very, very busy. You do so many activities. Even I saw you that you were busy on WISHMAN also. We haven't
On
got it in here.
on with what?
It seems that you are very, very busy. So what have you been to?
Oh, I've
Because
been up to a lot of really fun things. What's really cool is some of the things
mm-hmm,
that I'm doing now are not things that I ever imagined I would ever do. Recently, it was actually a week ago that
mm-hmm,
the Hollywood
mm-hmm,
movie premiere of a movie called The
mm-hmm,
WISHMAN, which is the story
mm-hmm.
of how the Make-A-Wish Foundation got started. I was there, on the red carpet interviewing people on that, and that was a lot of fun. Just it's so amazing what we're up
Wow.
to now.
Yeah, I can imagine because you meet the real stars, the movie stars. So how
Yeah.
did you start it? That you get involved on that project?
Well, it started I'd say about 4 years ago. I was attending an event called
Mm-hmm,
Secret Knock here in San Diego. And
mm-hmm,
at this event, the gentleman, his
mm-hmm,
name is Frank Shankwitz. He's
mm-hmm,
the creator and a co-founder of the Make-A-Wish
mm-hmm,
Foundation. And he was one of the
mm-hmm.
speakers at the event. And what was really
Wow.
interesting for me is that at the end of his talk, so he gave about a
Mm-hmm,
20-minute talk about his history, how the Make-A-Wish was founded. At the very, very
mm-hmm.
end of his talk, he said, everyone can be a hero. And what was interesting
Wow.
for me is in that moment that I heard him say that, it was like a light bulb went off in my head and said,
Mm-hmm,
I can be a hero. I never thought of myself that way. I never thought of myself as a
mm-hmm,
person that had any value, of a person who um, was doing anything important in their life.
mm-hmm,
And those words right there really set me on a path to
mm-hmm.
doing better for this planet, being a better person for this planet. And it really did set me in motion. And then October of 2017, a year and a
Mm-hmm.
half ago, I had an opportunity to
Mhm.
be part of the film. So I
Mhm.
became one of the executive producers of the
Wow.
film Wishman. And it's like, whoa, just so many things started
Wow.
unfolding from there. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, what?
Yeah, executive producer. I never imagined that one too. You know what I mean? Like it's because you have been into the coaching, into the training, and then suddenly you get involved into the movie project, right?
Yeah.
What did you feel at that time? Because the sentences, the statement from Frank Shankwitz that everyone can be a hero is very strong for me also when I hear it
Yeah.
from you.
Yeah. And so I heard that statement 4 years ago. And then so it
Mm-hmm.
took a little over 2 years before
Mm-hmm.
I jumped into the film. Now they had been working on the film. It took them about
Mm-hmm.
6 years to finally
Mm-hmm.
get the film out there. And
Mm-hmm.
they had been working on it, they had been filming, and then
Mm-hmm.
they ran over budget. And so when they ran over budget, they started reaching out to everybody they knew
Mm-hmm.
and were like, do you want to be part of this film and help us with the financing of the film?
Yes.
And I was
Wow.
like, you know what? I am in. I have to be part of this because the Make-A-Wish Foundation has granted wishes for almost 500,000 children who are dying
500,000 children.
yes, worldwide, right? And it's just this
Wow.
amazing organization. And
Yes.
to hear the story of how Frank Shankwitz, how he
Mm-mm.
started it.
Mm.
I've heard his story many times. I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
have to be part of this film. And so I just,
Mm-hmm.
raised my hand, put it on my credit card. I'm like, I'm in. I've got to be part of this.
I would be that one too if I were there, I will
Yeah.
just jump on it. So, what do you think about the movie? Because you have already watched it in the launching and on the premiere in Hollywood, right? With the other stars.
Yes. Yeah, it's cool because I've seen it several times. I saw it before it came out to the public because as one of the executive producers, I got to see it in the making, which was a lot of fun. I got to see it before it
Mm-hmm.
had any music in it. I got to
Mm-hmm.
see it with the bloopers already, still in there, and so it was cool to see it on a big screen with 600 people in the audience watching this film. And every once in a while you could look around the audience and see people wiping their tears because
Wow, I can imagine that. Yes.
yeah, it's just
See, shivering here.
exactly. It's a very emotional story. And
Yeah.
Frank's life was tough. A lot of us have tough
Mm-hmm.
lives, and Frank's was one that was a very tough life, a tough childhood. And to see what he created out of, because of his past, that he created the
Mm-hmm.
Make-A-Wish Foundation, it really goes to show that everyone can be a hero. And it
Mm-hmm.
really, this story helps you to believe that you too
Mm-hmm.
can be that
Mm-hmm.
hero. And that's what it did for me.
Yeah, and then after joining in that project, how did it influence you? What I mean is like, how did it influence your career also? Because suddenly you become much more famous than before. I know that you have already interviewed JCD and then Les Brown and even Jack Canfield, but then you come into the bigger project, much more bigger than before. So
Yeah.
how did it influence you personally and in your career?
It what it did for me is, you see, so Sonia, I grew up in an
Mm.
abusive household. I grew up around,
Oh, I'm
my dad was
sorry.
very abusive. Thank you, thank
Mm.
you. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be who I am today, right? But it was a
That's
very
true. That's true.
volatile, abusive, alcoholic household.
Mm.
I married somebody. My first husband was just like my
Mm.
dad, and
Mm.
what I recognize now is what that did
Mm.
to me is it made me become a very
Mm.
fearful person. I had so many
Mm.
fears, and I had like mostly like fear of judgment. What are people going to think of me if
Mm.
I say or do something? So by me
Mm.
jumping into this project of the Wishman
Mm.
movie, what it did is it helped to like unlock my mind in a way to
Mm.
see that I can be part of something way
Mm.
bigger than just me. So
Wow.
really it's
Mm.
more about how did it expand my mind? How did it help
Mm.
me to jump into this area and say I do belong here. I belong with
Yes.
who I used to call those people. Like that's not for me, that's for those people.
Yes.
And it's like I've become one of those people that I always aspired to be but never thought I would
Mm.
be. So that's what it's done for me, personally. And then I can bring all of this
Mm.
growth, this personal
Mm.
growth to my clients as well in my coaching.
Mm.
So it's been amazing. Absolutely. What's
I
going to be in a
understand.
year? I don't know where I'm going to be in a year. I don't know.
Wow, very, very inspiring. But then, may I ask you something? Maybe this is a bit personal. So, how did you free yourself from your toxic family at that time?
Well, so I actually like clung on to, I guess we could call it like baggage, bad baggage, right? So I grew up
Mm-mm,
in that very hostile environment. My
mm-mm,
first husband was someone just like my dad.
mm-mm,
When actually I had two kids with my first husband.
mm-mm,
My daughter was 4 weeks old and my son
mm-mm,
was 14 months
mm-mm.
old when I realized that I was repeating my mom's life. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going
Mm-mm,
to live the same lifestyle that my mom did, and that was to be in an abusive relationship.
mm-mm,
So 4 weeks old, 14 months old, I put my son on my hip, put my daughter in a carrying case,
mm-mm,
put a
mm-mm.
diaper bag over one shoulder, and put my purse over the other shoulder, and I literally just walked out. I had no car, so I
Wow.
literally walked out. didn't know what I was going to do, how I was going to make it, but I knew at that moment what I was no longer going to do. So that was one of the things I did to get rid of that toxicity was, my ex-husband, he was my husband
Mhm.
at the time, but to get rid of
Mhm.
my husband was to just walk away. But then still, after I was 21 years old at that time,
Mhm.
so still I
Very.
had young, right? It's like, shoot,
Mhm.
I didn't know what I was going to do,
Mhm.
but I knew what I wasn't going to do. But so as far as the family goes, there's been some release of family
Mhm.
members, in my life
Mhm.
because of the
Mhm.
toxicity. And it's
Mhm.
really what I've done is I've surrounded myself with amazing
Mhm.
people who are
Mhm.
positive,
Mhm.
uplifting, want to see me succeed, want to see me excel, and they're bringing me
Mhm.
along with them. So surrounding
Mhm.
myself with them has made it easy
Mhm.
to um, I don't like to use these words, but I don't know what other words to use, but like easily to
Mhm.
um, eliminate the
Eliminate.
negativity in
Yeah.
my life.
Yeah. Or for me, just burn the bridge. But then this is a very important lesson and message for the other women who are on the same condition. I mean, just like in here on the developing country. So I need to know more about it. If you do not mind, I ask you about this. It's like, how do you recognize that you are on the same pattern with your mother?
You know, it was there was one particular incident, and you can ask me
Mm-hmm.
any question because I will answer honestly. I'm an open book. I'm totally vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
and authentic with my responses. But there was one. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
stands out in my mind so strong. There was one
Mm-hmm.
particular instance where um, my husband and we were
Mm-hmm.
yelling at each other, and I recognized that
Mm-hmm.
I never yell at anybody in my life except for him. He's the only person in my entire life that I had ever yelled at, you know. But we were yelling so hard at each other. My son, he was
Mm-hmm.
14 months old, he was sitting there and he was crying his eyes out, just bawling. And I looked at my husband and I said, I yelled this, like, if you want him to grow up hating you like I hate my dad, then I'll stay with you. And when those
Wow.
words came out of my mouth, I realized how absolutely ridiculous that was. I'm willing to stay with somebody who has me yelling at the
Mm-hmm.
top of my lungs, who has our son crying, so much because he's in such pain watching his parents fight with each other. Why
Mm-hmm.
would I stay with somebody who's putting me in this position of turning me
Mm-hmm.
into a person that I'm not, you know? And that was where I gathered my strength to just
Mm-hmm.
pick up. I didn't even pack anything, a diaper bag and a purse. That was it. Just to pick up and leave. Because sometimes in life, we're going
Mm-hmm.
through situations that are so horrendous that
Mm-hmm.
because it's our comfort zone, we're willing to stay with it. But at what point in your life are you willing to say, you know what, I am not going to live this way anymore. I'm going to choose my life from
Mm-hmm.
this moment forward. And that's when we make a decision. And that was the decision I made in that very moment. And I did it and I left and I was gone forever.
So it means that it seemed what you had on your childhood until you were teenager has already recorded under your subconscious mind, right? And
Yeah.
then but then you were very brave to take the decision. But what about the other woman who didn't have that bread, that strength, to take that kind of decision when they are into the family abuse or the marriage abuse? There are so many such kind of cases here.
Yeah.
So, what do you suggest to the other woman for this case if they
Well,
have the experience as yours?
yeah, and thanks for that question because I've thought about this a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
really, when I look back at that situation in my life, I in that moment, I'm in that moment, right? And I'm having this
Mm-hmm.
miserable life. I really, literally looked at myself as walking through life in
Mm-hmm.
a dark cloud. I saw my life as just darkness. And so
Mm-hmm.
in that very moment, I never saw myself as being courageous,
Mm-hmm.
strong, brave.
Mm,
What I really saw was the opposite. I saw that I was scared to stay. I was more scared to stay than I was to leave. So
mm,
that's what I say is look at the situation. If
mm,
you're in fear of your life, my
mm,
ex-husband was very abusive. I was in fear for my life. If you're in
mm,
fear for your life, but you're in fear of leaving, you have to weigh
mm,
the two fears. It's just fear is fear, period. So you have to look at it and say, which one am I more scared of? Am I more scared of staying or am I more scared of leaving? And oftentimes when women are scared of leaving an
mm,
abusive situation, the fear
mm,
is like, how am I going to make it? How am I going to survive? They're
mm,
fearful of what they don't know. But
mm,
what if you left the situation and everything worked out? What if you left the situation and you found supportive people who wanted to
mm,
help you through the
mm,
situation? So, my recommendation is find a group of women who are
mm,
supportive and are
mm,
there for you. Because if you go into like more negative situations, it's not going to
yes.
help you any. You're just going to continue down the same path and then you'll go back to him and then you'll leave
Mm-hmm.
again and then you'll go back and then who knows what's going to happen. You know,
Yes.
yeah.
It can be continued until we have children, and it can happen to our children also next, right? But then, from your story, from your explanation, it seems that the comfort zone here is not only the condition that make you happy, make you relax, but also pain, and the endurance of pain can be the comfort zone also. Is that right?
Exactly. Your comfort zone is the place you feel most comfortable. Now, I always looked at my mom was with my dad for 55 years. And she went
Wow.
through abuse for 55 years. Even the last thing my dad said before he passed away was something condescending and mean to her. That was just the way he was. And so I
Mm-hmm.
looked at my mom and said, that was my mom's comfort zone, though.
Mm-hmm.
She was comfortable because she always knew that in our house, things would
Mm-hmm.
be volatile, but she knew it and she was comfortable with it. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
comfort zone isn't necessarily always a happy place. The comfort zone is the place that when you're thinking of leaving that place and it's scary to you to leave,
Mm-hmm.
that means this is your comfort zone. So we have a choice. Do we want to have this negativity remain in our comfort
Mm-hmm.
zone, or do we want to take a chance and
Mm-hmm.
create a whole different comfort zone? And we can do
Mm-hmm.
that as human beings. I often
Mm-hmm.
think of like some movies out there are really interesting
Mm-hmm.
because you have a
Mm-hmm.
movie and the
Mm-hmm.
woman is like leaving the husband and she just like moves to a
Mm-hmm.
totally different country to start her
Mm-hmm.
life over again. So she's creating her whole new life in a new comfort zone. She's creating it for herself. And I just think it's interesting that there are people who do that kind of stuff. But what prevents others from doing it? It's the fear they
Mm-hmm.
have. And
Yes. The
fear is debilitating. Fear will stop us from living the life we want to live. And it's up to us to find people who can help us through those times. It really is. Because
eh,
if we rely on ourselves, it might never happen.
mhm. Yeah, that's true. But then, did you ever think at that time that your mother didn't think of her children because she stayed there all the time, while the
Yeah,
children got hurt many times, right?
yeah, we had there were a couple times when we like packed up and got in the
Mm-hmm.
station wagon. There were 5 kids. We had 5 kids,
Mm-hmm.
2 dogs, my mom and
Mm-hmm.
dad. And I remember one time in particular,
Mm-hmm.
it was a really exciting day for me because my mom packed us all up. She put us all in the car.
Mm-hmm.
We drove to the bank so she
Mm-hmm.
could take out all the money and we would leave.
Mm-hmm.
And what ended up happening is she said, okay, you kids stay in the car, keep the doors locked. I'm going to go in the
Mm-hmm.
bank. I'm going to come out and we're going to leave. And what ended up happening is my dad showed up and he knocks
Mm-hmm.
on the window. Let me in, let me in. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. I'll never do it again. I'll never hurt anybody. But, he starts saying all these things, his plea,
Wow.
for us letting him back in. Well, the doors were
Mm-hmm.
locked. My brother unlocked the door. And us kids got out of the car. And when my mom came out of the bank, there we were out of the car with my dad. And my mom got us all in the car and drove us back home. It was our opportunity to escape. But my mom didn't know what to do. She just didn't know. She didn't have the help. She didn't have supportive
Mm,
people in her life. Probably a lot of the
mm.
people in her life didn't even know what she was going through, you know.
So she held herself back because of it, right? She didn't know her own condition at that time or
Yeah,
what she felt at that time. So that, yeah, again, return to the old pattern. And it happened again after that.
yeah. And it happened a few times. But I remember one time I was 5 years old
Mm-hmm.
and I ran away and I was gone for a whole week. And so at 5 years old, I ran away and I was ready to be gone forever. But what happened was my mom knew where I was. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
she knew where I was.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, after a week, she called up the neighbor. I was at the neighbor's house. She called up
Mm-hmm.
the neighbor and said, "She's been gone long enough. You can send her home now." And so I came back
Mm-hmm.
home. But for all intents and purposes, I was ready to live with another family the rest of my life.
Because
That's how
of
I.
that experience with your
Yep.
neighbor, that you experienced the different atmosphere at the neighbor, right? So
Yeah,
then,
totally different. Yeah.
with these years of experiences, that I don't say it is easy, but very, very difficult for everyone to experience, how did you start to build yourself again and then build your wings to fly like today? I met you as a very strong woman, very attractive woman, very open-minded, so very different with your story in the past.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Completely different because I grew up in negativity. I married negativity.
Mm,
My current husband,
mm.
I've been with him for almost 31 years. He's
Wow, 31
amazing.
years.
31 years. Yeah. And,
Wow,
he,
congratulations.
thank you. I know it's a rarity. We've been married long. We've been together
Mm,
more than half of my life, so it's really cool. But he's absolutely incredible. He's very supportive of me.
mm,
He thinks I'm a genius, which is really awesome. But what was
mm,
really interesting for me is I never believed him because the deep ruts from my childhood and my first husband,
mm,
they were so deep rooted in my brain that I believed, because my ex-husband told me on a daily basis, "You're so
mm.
stupid, you're so ignorant, people are only nice to you because they feel sorry for you." And he would yell that at me on a daily basis. So I believed him after like
So this
two
is like
years.
mentally abused also for years, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm,
And here's the crazy part is there's a childhood poem or saying. It goes,
mm,
"Sticks and stones will break my bones and words will never hurt me," which is totally opposite, right? Because a bone
mm,
will heal. The
mm.
mind
The mind
might
now.
never heal. It can, but it might not, right? So
Mm-hmm,
so what happens, you asked me the question, is when I was 51 years old,
mm-hmm,
I was on Facebook and a
mm,
message came up in a group and it said, "I'm a
mm,
life coach. I've been doing it for 20 years. I took 5 years off and I'm ready to get back into it. I'm looking for 5 women who want to change their life." And I was like, oh my God, this woman is talking to me. And
mm,
I jumped in. I said, "I want to change my life." Because I was starting to feel like, what's the purpose? Why am I here? I'm
mm,
51 years old. I haven't done anything important,
mm,
nothing of
mm,
value. I'm not a happy person. I'm faking. At that point I was like faking happiness, because I wanted people to like me, you know. So I hired this life coach, and
mm,
that was in 2014, August of 2014, and that was when
mm,
my life started to unravel and unfold, and for me to discover who I am, for me to discover that I actually have value. I do have a purpose for being on this planet, and I need to share
mm,
my value as much as I
mm.
possibly can. And that was the start of it, August of 2014.
Wow, look at the result. It wasn't a long time ago, I think, yes. And then,
Yeah.
how did you finally know Greg Reid? You know that he is a very great person in my opinion, because I have read his book also. I got the reference from Larry Boyer, my coach at that time. So I searched on the bookstore here and I got it. How did
Oh,
you,
awesome.
know him on the first time, so that you become, what is it like, working together with him in every project that he has now?
Yeah, pretty much. Boy, I met him at an
Uh,
event. It was a vision board seminar. Have you heard of vision
mhm.
boards?
Kind of, but I know about his other event. The famous one is Secret Knock, right?
Secret Knock, right. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
I was attending a vision board seminar, and with vision
Mm-hmm.
board seminars,
Yeah,
basically you cut out of magazines things that you want to
yeah.
have in your life.
To create our dreams, yes, on
Yes,
the board.
yes.
Yeah, that
And
one.
so I was attending that workshop, and Greg
Mm-hmm.
Reed spoke.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up speaking at the event, and um, after he was done speaking, he invited people to attend his event, Secret Knock. And it was
Mm-hmm.
a lot of money. It was $1,500 back then. I was like, I'm not attending this event. But my life coach, she was with me, and she looked
Mm-hmm.
at me in the eyes and she said, "You have to attend this event. You have to be there." And I was like, oh, okay, if my life coach tells me there's something she sees that I don't see. So I went ahead and attended that event. And that was when I met Frank Shankwitz, the creator,
Mm-hmm.
co-founder of Make a
Mm-hmm.
Wish Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of like that was the catalyst. That was the moment that
Mm-hmm.
started me on a completely different path, a path of
Mm-hmm.
abundance, a path of of possibilities, a path of
Mm-hmm.
opportunities. And Greg became my mentor. He ended up becoming
Mm-hmm.
one of my mentors, and helping
Mm-hmm.
me to guide me along this path and journey.
Mm-hmm.
And oh man, when you're in the sphere of someone like
Yeah.
that, you can't
Mm-hmm.
help but become positive. You can't help it. It's like a
That's
byproduct,
true.
you know?
So that, yeah, because you are influenced by your environment. But then I am very surprised that you really believe on your life coach at that time, because there are so many life coaches who have no quality also, right? So how did
Yeah.
you, what is it, work with her for how long?
I worked with her for 5 months, and because like how I
Mm-hmm.
found her literally was that post in a Facebook group,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't even know her credentials or anything. Just felt like
Mm-hmm.
this woman was speaking to me, and I got to work
Mm-hmm.
with her. So I just jumped in, like without any research on her or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
just jumped in blindly, blind faith, right? And boy, am I glad I did. She was such an important part of my changes in my life, because
Mm-hmm.
she's the one who helped me to see who I really am. And that was so important for me because I didn't know who I was. Since I grew up in all that abuse, and my first
Mm-hmm.
husband was abusive,
Mm-hmm.
I became a people pleaser. And I
Mm-hmm.
walked around. If you hated something, I hated it. If you loved something, I loved it. If you kind of liked something, then I kind of liked it. I went along with everybody in my life. I just, wherever I was at that moment, that's what I went along with, because I thought that was the only way people would like me. So that's what I did. And it was all out of fear of people not liking me. So she helped
Yes, I
me.
understand.
It's a hard like a hard line to work in, because
Mm-hmm.
what if people don't like me? You know? Now I realize,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's okay. Because as
Mm-hmm.
long as I'm being me, it doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
what their reaction or response is. So what my
Mm-hmm.
life coach did is she helped
Mm-hmm.
me to discover, what does Lynda love? What
Mm-hmm.
does Lynda
Mm-hmm.
hate? What does Lynda
Mm-hmm.
like? And then I
Mm-hmm.
can live my life liking the things I like, doing the things I want to do, living the life I want to live,
Mm-hmm.
not living the life I think I need to be living because I think that's what other people want me to do. That was what my life was for the first 51 years. So she helped me tremendously.
Wow, that is very impressive. And then also from those workshop, vision board and the secret note, then finally leads you to the other famous people. How did you started to interview, like, all of my favorite speakers like JCT, Jack Canfield, and
Oh
then
my
Les
gosh.
Brown. How did you did it? Very amazing in my opinion, like you are the star.
Oh, thanks. That's funny. I don't think of myself that way at all, but thank you. That's awesome. I love doing it. I've been doing interviews for probably about 3 years or so. And I started off
Mm-hmm.
doing an interview like you're doing right now. I had somebody
Mm-hmm.
to join me on my like Facebook Live, and then I just started interviewing more and more people. And because of the circle I hang out with, which is the Secret Knock
Mm-hmm.
crowd, a lot of the people at Secret Knock are either like multimillionaires and billionaires. A lot of them are stars, they're astronauts, they're professional
Yes.
athletes. So the people that
All of the
I
high performers.
Yes, yes. And that's who I was hanging out with, right? So that's who I'm hanging out with. So it's natural for me to interview them. So I interviewed, the founder of UGG boots. I
Mm-hmm.
interviewed, the gentleman who invented the magnetic strip that goes on the back of credit cards. So I just started interviewing these people, and I found that, oh, they're no different than anybody else that I'm interviewing. So when there was an opportunity for me to interview the president of Mexico, the country, Vicente
Wow.
Fox, I was like,
Wow.
I'm in.
Mind blowing.
I know, and
Because then I can be like you when I am there next time.
well, you just got to start somewhere. That's the thing. You're starting, right? And
That's
so,
that's why
and
I'm
when I,
starting now and with you
yeah,
here.
exactly. There you go. Well, it's awesome because you can either plan that stuff or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't plan a lot of it. But interviewing,
Mm-hmm.
the president. I interviewed Wesley Snipes 2 months ago on the red carpet. That was cool because he's,
Whoa.
he's just a
Super,
very
super cool. Super duper cool, I think.
exactly. So, but how did that happen? So the question is, how
Mm-hmm.
did that happen? Again, I first started off just interviewing people because I wanted to. I'm a very curious person. I have a lot of questions. So it was
Mm-hmm.
natural for me to want to interview people and introduce
Mm-hmm.
them to my audience or, my Facebook fans.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started off that way. And then I was like, ooh, I wonder if I can interview this person, and like Sharon Lecter, I interviewed her. That was
Mm-hmm.
just so amazing. But I've had these opportunities because I've seen them, like I like to say, see the opportunity and then
Mm-hmm.
seize the opportunity. There's opportunities all around us. Everywhere you look, there's an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to do something. And
Mm-hmm.
so, what do you do with that opportunity? It's up to you to take the step, to take the action to make it happen. And so that's what I did. I just started saying, hey, can I interview you on my show? Hey, can I interview you on my show? And every single person said yes. Not a single person said no. So it made me just start asking
So,
more.
yes, that's true. I think I will not ask you what you want to say or to our audiences the message because you give a lot of values and messages in this interview. Also, then I'm afraid that we run out of time after this, and you have to
Ah,
go to next event.
yeah. Well,
But
what I
Linda,
would say. Oh, go ahead.
would you please also tell about your book before we end the session? Because the audience might know about your book also and where they can get your book.
Thank you. It's called The Year of Fears. In
Mm,
2015, I faced a fear every
mm,
single day. I
mm,
had so many fears that I decided I was going to face a fear
mm,
every single day. And so I wrote a book called The Year of
mm,
Fears, the 7 most important
mm,
lessons I learned that will save you time and money. And it's kind of cool
mm.
because Les Brown gives me a testimonial related to my book. And
Oh,
he says,
yes.
it's funny, he goes, the 7 most
Of
important
course.
lessons you can
A
use that
world
save you
class
time
book
and
in my
money.
opinion.
Exactly. But he's just another amazing person that I asked him and he said yes. And so yeah, the book, The Year of Fears, you can go to theyearoffears.com and I'll send you a signed copy actually. And it's cool because to write the book was a little bit scary to put it out there, but it was a book about fears. So what do I have to do? I have to put the book out there because I have to face my fears. Every time you face a fear and you move through that fear, you might not rid yourself of that fear permanently forever, but at least you moved through it and you will grow from it. If you face a fear every single day, I guarantee you, you will gain some confidence you never knew you had. But then also, every time you move through a fear, it helps you to just enlarge the size of your comfort zone more and more and more. And I like to talk about enlarging the size of our comfort zone. Or if you're stepping out of your comfort zone, I love to invite people into my comfort zone, because when I'm inviting them into my comfort zone, it makes them relieve some of their fear and their stress and pressure. So that's what I love to do. Um, and it was an interesting year, to say the least. You have to face a fear every single day, but I'm so glad I did it. It was one of the smartest things I've ever done in my life, and I had no idea what to expect, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, and you are very brave to take any decision in your life to step up and then, to fly like today. And I really thank you for all of your values and knowledges and good messages for everyone, especially for the woman. And how can they reach you?
Well, they can find, well, my website is livingliveinc.com. And then also on Facebook, I have Living Live Inc. is the name of my Facebook page. But I'm also looking for women who are women action takers, or women who want to be action takers but aren't really sure how. Maybe they have some fears around the actions. And so on Facebook, I have a free Facebook page looking for women who want to take action or who are taking action. And it's just called Women Action Takers on Facebook, and I'd love to see you guys there. It is for women only, guys. Sorry about that. We women need our safe space.
Oh, great. Lynda, once more, really thank you that you are coming to live with Sonya, and I hope our audiences can share our messages here. And then have a great day. I really thank you and see you next time. Please don't say no next time if I want to invite you again to share your
Oh, of
values
course.
for the other people. Thank you very much, and I'll see you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much for having me. And of course, I'll say yes. You got, you're amazing. Thank you.